friends, in the series which we are doing on history of India 1700 to 1950, in the earlier lecture we talked about Mahatma Gandhi and mass nationalism, Gandhian thought and technique. So we will continue on the similar theme in this particular lecture as well. And as in the earlier lecture we talked about the various ideas of Gandhi with regard to mass nationalism, that how Gandhi was able to mobilize the masses through his ideas, his techniques and his thought pattern. And we also talked about the kind of contribution which he made in South Africa, and thereafter when he came to India, this kind of a contribution also continues, and how Gandhi in the framework of truth and ahimsa, thought and practice, keeping fast in the framework of the consistency in belief and action, all these kinds of ideals which we see in Gandhian techniques, and the various kinds of movements, whether from Champaran Satyagraha to non-cooperation, civil disobedience, and we also find the Quit India movements, various movements which were launched by Gandhi, and how Gandhi kept the ideal of truth and ahimsa at the forefront, the kind of influences on Gandhi in the framework of Vaishnavism and Jainism, Bhagavad Gita, Tolstoy, Ruskin and Thoreau, all of them, they in a way contributed to the Gandhian thought, and Gandhi also acknowledges their contribution as well. And when Gandhi talks about Ram Raj, we also find that he was talking within the framework of an eternal God, and this was in terms of explaining the kingdom of God on earth. So we find that how Gandhi was using some kind of a symbol of Ram Raj to talk about some kind of a state where we have an ideal society. And Gandhi also uses various kinds of symbols like khadi, as we talked about in that lecture, and how khadi had different political, economic, social and moral function at that point of time, and khadi was also associated with the idea of Swadeshi, and it was also integral in the framework of the imports which were coming from Britain, and how these cloth import they were also hampering the Indian industries, and because of which we find that how the deindustrialization takes place in India. So we talked about these kinds of aspects where we find that how truth and ahimsa and thought and practice which were there in Gandhian ideals, they could be in a way seen in the various movements as well which were launched by Gandhi. And Gandhi also talks about the idea of holistic national unity, and this holistic national unity would come when the people, those who have and those who do not have, their gap is reduced. So Gandhi talks in the framework of the concept of trusteeship in this framework, and he believes that when this idea or the Gandhian notion of Sarvodaya which was there, so trusteeship idea was intrinsic in Gandhian notion of Sarvodaya, that is the maximum benefit of all. So Gandhi was talking in the framework of wiping out the exploitation of every type and economic advantages percolating down to the people who are at the last rungs of the society. And Gandhi also in the framework talks about that the people, those who are engaged in producing wealth for the society, should act as trustees of the society, and those resources, they are to be utilized for the benefit of the country. They should not be utilized or for the people, those who are only for the people, those who are producing it. So Gandhi had a wider view with regard to it, and he felt that by economic independence, Gandhi was in a way trying to intend that the economic upliftment of the each individual should take place. And we find that Gandhi was also criticized on this kind of an issue of advocating the concept of trusteeship, which in a way favored the capitalist class. And on the other hand, we find that how Gandhi was trying to identify himself with the masses, those who were oppressed and dispossessed. And Gandhi engaged himself in a lot of constructive work where efforts were made for the removal of untouchability, propagation of the Hindu-Muslim unity. And these were some kind of ideas which reflects his approach towards the idea of national unity. So Gandhi from that point of view had wider ideas, and at the same time one has to also realize that India had so many divisions in the framework, that so many castes, religious identities, languages, regions, and Gandhi had to function within those kinds of limitations. So some kind of a broader front was to be kept, when one was talking about the movement. And we also find that when one is talking about the identity of the interests of the diverse sections, then Gandhi was favor of this kind of an idea. And we also find that the national movement, which was initiated during the Gandhian period, so how it in a way understood the British policy of divide and rule, and they rejected this idea that the way they wanted to create dissensions among the various sections of the society for their own benefit. So the colonial policy wanted to divide people on the ground that they will be able to rule them better when people will be divided. And we also see when Gandhi was talking about or in a way was in the pursuit of truth, then he talks about satyagraha, which was a simple method to secure justice and independence. And Gandhi says that a person who believes in satyagraha, he has to be non-violent in nature. Ahimsa should be the characteristic of that person, because that person, if a person is non-violent, that means that he is a strong person. And Gandhi also believed that a person who is a true satyagrahi is not a coward, because he has that kind of a strength, which is an inner strength. And to be non-violent requires more strength than being violent. So Gandhi talks within that particular framework that when one is non-violent, then it will require more strength than a person who is a violent person. So Gandhi's concept of non-violence does not talk about any kind of a cowardice in that sense, and he believes that a person who is non-violent had more strength than the person who was violent. So these were some kind of ideas which we find in the Gandhi's beliefs, and we also see that the various techniques which were being used by Gandhi in the struggle for India's independence, where we find that there was a lot of emphasis on the idea of non-cooperation, because he believed that the success of violence is temporary and the results finally in more violence. So Gandhi believed that non-violence is that kind of an idea where we'll find that the results will be more long-lasting. And he also believed that the social justice for the downtrodden could not be achieved by force, but by appropriate training of the downtrodden by non-violent means. So we find that this idea of social justice for the downtrodden, it could be achieved when we would in a way provide a lot of training and appropriate training to the people through the non-violent means. So Gandhi's beliefs in this kind of method of non-violence was concerned with the idea of non-cooperation as well. And we find that he was talking in the framework of the redressal of injustices which was suffered by the people and how they could be realized, and the means through which it could be achieved is the non-violent non-cooperation. So Gandhi talks that the resistance to evil through the non-violent methods, that if the person is doing wrong to you, if the person is evil, then you have to resist the person through the non-violent methods. And also we find that some kind of a deed to secure the self-respect and honor. So non-cooperation would also would serve as some kind of a method by which one can get back the self-respect and honor from the adversary. And he also talks about a method of securing cooperation of the adversary to get independence and justice without having hatred towards him. So Gandhi also talks about the way of securing the cooperation of the people, of the adversaries, to get the independence as well, and justice, and we should not carry any kind of hatred towards them. We should be loving them in that sense. And Gandhi believed that we should give every chance to the adversary so that he or she is able to change themselves. So we find that the success of the non-cooperation in that sense was dependent upon people's powers of suffering and self-sacrifice. This is what Gandhi talks about. And non-cooperation has a specific motive behind it as well, because one cannot separate it from the truth. And when Gandhi is talking the kind of ways and techniques of securing justice and freedom, he says that like ahimsa and peace, non-cooperation is also a vibrant force. It is dynamic in nature, it is moving in nature, and it was more vigorous than the physical strength. because through the non-cooperation you will be able to make the adversary realize that you have that kind of a strength where you are ready to face the consequences as well, but at the same time you are making them realize that you are not cooperating with them. So this kind of a dynamism was there in this, and it also talks about that how only the physical strength was not there. This kind of an idea was more vigorous in nature. And we find that when one is talking about non-cooperation, it was Gandhi's non-cooperation was to be undertaken so as to make the opponent realize the futility of injustice and oppression perpetrated by him. So Gandhi says that how the opponent had to realize the futility of injustice, the kind of injustice which was being done to him, and the oppression which was perpetrated by him. And Gandhi says that we should provide every chance to the opponent to change his heart, and he believed that if the opponent realizes that he had committed a mistake, then he should be given every opportunity to rectify error. So we find that Gandhi in a way realized he had this kind of a firm belief that if someone has committed a mistake, then he should be given an opportunity to rectify that kind of a mistake which one has done. So Gandhi was ready to in a way provide this kind of an opportunity to the opponent, where if the opponent felt that he had committed a mistake and if he wants to correct himself, then he can does. So any kind of principle of injustice or wrongdoing by the opponent, Gandhi's non-cooperation was against such kind of principles. And Gandhi also believed that truth and non-violence, they were central to any kind of an idea with regard to non-cooperation and the other methods which were in a way initiated by Gandhi. And Gandhi believed that when one is talking about non-cooperation, one was talking in the framework of the pursuit of truth, that is satyagraha, a simple method to secure justice and independence. And Gandhi says that he lays no claim to superhuman powers and has truth and non-violence to fall back on in every situation in life. So that was a Gandhian method, and truth and non-violence, they were seen in that particular framework, and that was also some kind of a talisman which was being given by Gandhi. Truth and non-violence were the important aspects of the Gandhian thought. And we also see that apart from non-cooperation, as we have talked about in the framework of the method, in the framework of the philosophy which was there in the Gandhian methods, we also find that he also had civil disobedience as Gandhi's political practice became his political thought. And his contribution to political thought and practice could be realized, could be seen here also, where he integrated the observance of the non-violence with the resistance to injustice and revolutionary action. And we find that the various contributors to Gandhian thought, for example, Thoreau, he played an important role in the evolution of Gandhian concept of civil disobedience. And in turn, we find that Thoreau himself was influenced by Emerson's political philosophy, who in turn was motivated by Hindu religious traditions. So Thoreau's writings were closer to the Hindu asceticism explained in Bhagavad Gita, and the philosophy of Gandhi and Thoreau could be summed up in one word, that is simplify. So we find that the various Western thinkers, for example Emerson, Thoreau, how they were also borrowing from the Indian thought, as has been talked about in the framework of Bhagavad Gita, and how Gandhi was also borrowing not only from them but at the same time from Bhagavad Gita, where Gandhi and Thoreau, we find that at philosophical level both their thinkings could be in a way summed up or in a way explained in one word, that was simplify. And Gandhi also believed that if one has to in a way unify, then you should not show the strength of law or by means of any external force. So Gandhi is critical of these kinds of idea where a strength of law or any external force is being imposed. And Gandhi was talking in the framework of the inner force and was emphasizing the moral values and the ethical strength. So for Gandhi, we find that the moral values and the ethical strength, it was very, very important. And when one has both these kinds of aspects, then one will be able to in a way take any aspect along in terms of execution. So we find that how Gandhi in a way identifies with the minorities both at the level of his beliefs and at the level of the deeds, and his synchronization of the belief in action and thought and practice was the hallmark of the Gandhian thought. And when one was talking about the kind of unity at that point of time in the framework of the national unity, then we find that the Khilafat movement, Hindu-Muslim unity, non-cooperation movement, civil disobedience movement, Quit India movement, constructive work, all of them, they were part of the ideal of the national unity, which was emphasized by Gandhi, because Gandhi was using all these kinds of methods at different points of time, and he was also using these movements where we find that where these methods they were being applied to these movements. And apart from them, when Gandhi was not involved in the movements, we find that the way he was engaged in the constructive work was also an important concern, because during the times when he was involved in the constructive work, he was trying to mobilize masses so that they get ready for the next stage of the freedom struggle. We also see that how he was also in a way criticized for playing down the distinctions among the various sections, those who were involved in the national movement. But we also have to realize that to carry together so many communities with diverse interests was indeed a Herculean task. And in modern history, we do not find any mass leader with a single-minded focus on truth and non-violence to influence so many people for so long a time. So we find that taking along so many people together was an important concern of the Gandhian period, and to carry them along, it was also very necessary that these people, they have shared thought process, and to mobilize them, we find that Gandhian ideals, they definitely played an important role, and the people, those who were following Gandhi, those who were living in the various ashrams which were established by Gandhi, they were being given this kind of a training to fight the British in a manner where we find that they are not violent in nature, they are non-violent. And Gandhi also realized that the masses, they cannot continue for a very long period of time, and it has been argued that the Gandhian movements, they last for a period and then the movement, it recedes. So the kind of a toleration of the masses to continue in a movement for a long period of time was also limited, as Gandhi realized, and we find that if we have a period where the movement is being launched, so after that we also have a period where no movement from the political point of view is happening. Rather, Gandhi and others, they are engaged in the constructive work, and with this kind of a constructive work, they will be able to mobilize masses in the next movement. So that is what Gandhi believed in, and at the same time the methods of non-violence and truth, they required a lot of training. The ideals which were associated with the non-cooperation, the ideals of civil disobedience, they also needed a lot of training, because a true satyagrahi will also learn over a period of time. We also see that Gandhi's influence could also be seen in the various films of that particular period, that how the culture played an important the influence of Gandhi could be seen in the cultural sphere as well. And during the colonial period, a number of newsreels or documentaries which were made on Gandhi, they were being banned by the colonial government. They were not to be released, so that masses may not be motivated to take on to participate in the national movement. And we also see that apart from the newsreels and documentaries which were made during the colonial period, a number of feature films which were made during this time, they were also influenced by the Gandhian thought, whether it relates to prohibition, whether it relates to truth and ahimsa, or for that matter, we find that in many of the films of that period, the portraits of Gandhi or his ideals, they could also be seen where people are talking about the Gandhian ideals. And after that, after independence, also we find that how Gandhi was very relevant, and not only during that time. Even now we talk about the relevance of Gandhi and how others, other leaders in different parts of the world, they have been in a way influenced by the Gandhian thought. And we find that Life of Gandhi, the film in 1968, Mahatma, Life of Gandhi, and thereafter by Richard Attenborough in 1982, and again a film was made with the title of Gandhi, and this film became very popular as well. And we find that so many, because it was an international film, and we find that so many aspects of the Gandhian ideas and the movement, they were being captured in this particular film. Apart from that, we also see that a number of films, they were also made on Gandhi, whether Making of Mahatma in 1996, Hey Ram in 2000, Maine Gandhi Ko Nahi Mara in 2005, Lage Raho Munna Bhai 2006, which talks about Gandhi Giri, and Gandhi My Father in 2007. So, which talks about the relationship of Gandhi and his son Hiralal Gandhi. So, we find that a number of films which are talking about the Gandhian ideals, they are being made, and they have been exhibited and have become popular. And apart from that, we also see that film Lage Raho Munna Bhai talks about the idea of Gandhi Giri, which makes it some kind of a more popular aspect of the Gandhian thought. So, in that particular framework as well, we find that not only the political leaders, followers, they have been influenced by the Gandhian thought, but the filmmakers, not only after independence, but even before independence, they have been influenced by the Gandhian thought. But we find that Gandhi was not kind towards the medium of cinema. He did not like films, and he was critical of cinema. That's a different thing. And Gandhi only saw one film, as has been reported, Ram Rajya, which was made by Vijay Bhatt in 1943. But we find that how K. Abbas wrote a letter to Gandhi to in a way bless the film industry, and there were others, those who wanted to seek blessings of Gandhi. We also see that across the world, so many leaders, they have also been in a way influenced by Gandhian thought, whether Vishweshwar Prasad Koirala of Nepal, Nelson Mandela of South Africa, Martin Luther King Jr. in USA. So all these leaders at different levels, they have been influenced by the Gandhian thought, and they in a way wanted to bring about a change in their own society. And we also see that how these people, they talked about their struggle to secure an egalitarian and democratic world, on which Gandhi also emphasized. So the relevance of Gandhi in the framework in the contemporary times could also be seen in the framework of the seminars, debates. Time and again they talk about whether Gandhi is relevant today or not. So when one will talk about these kinds of aspects of Gandhi, we also see that the various schools, where the Cambridge, Nationalist, Marxist, Subaltern, all of them, they also have put up some kind of a critique of Gandhi and his methods and ideology. And we find that they have in a way tried to reduce the national movement in that framework, especially the Cambridge and Subaltern school. Cambridge school does not see the national movement led by Gandhi in that sense, and Subaltern and Marxist, both of them, they emphasize more on the working class peasants as the main leaders of the movement. And so from that point of view also, we realize that Gandhi was very relevant at that point of time and thereafter as well. And when one is trying to in a way assess Gandhi, we find that Gandhi had some kind of consistency in belief and action. What Gandhi believed, he wanted to put that into action as well. We also see that Gandhi, when Gandhi was talking in the framework of truth and ahimsa, then it was not merely some kind of a usage of words, but Gandhi himself believed in this, and he wanted his followers to in a way practice this, because Gandhi believed that when one will follow truth and ahimsa, then only they will be able to realize their objectives of attaining Swaraj. And we find that Gandhi was also ready to put his life in the framework, ready to sacrifice his life for independence of the country, when we find that he was ready to keep fast for a very long period of time. And it has been seen as some kind of a pressure tactics by the critics of Gandhi, that he was trying to put pressure on the government to in a way relent on certain issues. But at the same time, we have to also realize that to do such kind of things at that kind of age was also not a right thing in the framework of the health, but Gandhi was ready to undertake such kind of methods for the independence of the country. He was ready to contribute in that sense. And we also see that the issue of satyagraha was very relevant to Gandhi in the framework of the kind of method which was being used during the various kinds of movements which were launched by Gandhi, whether it was the non-cooperation movement or the civil disobedience movement or the Quit India movement. So we find that in all the movements the ideal of satyagraha was central in the movements which were launched by Gandhi. And we also see that apart from the various movements, Gandhi was also instrumental in carrying on the constructive work at different places. And in this constructive work we find that he was talking about the emancipation of women, where women, they joined hand of Gandhi, and Gandhi felt that when a woman will join the national movement, then the entire family will join the movement, because she will educate others in the family about the national movement. And Gandhi himself felt that the untouchability issue was some kind of a scourge to the Indian society. So they have to get rid of this kind of a practice where this kind of distinctions which are there in society should be done away with. And Gandhi was trying to see in the framework of an egalitarian society, as he talked about in the framework of Ram Rajya, where an ideal society is there, where there are no distinctions in the society on the basis of either gender or class or caste, religion. So all these kinds of things, they should not be there in the society. So we find that Gandhi's methods, his beliefs, his ideals, they were relevant at that point of time, and at the same time they are relevant even now, because every now and then we talk about the Gandhian methods. And we also see one of the important aspects in the environmental movements as well, where we find that the environmental movements in India, beginning from the Chipko movement, these movements, the people, those who have been associated with these movements, they claim that they have been influenced by the Gandhian ideals, and Gandhian practices, ideals, techniques could be seen in these environmental movements as well. So Gandhi's limit was not only in the political framework. We find that the Gandhian ideals, they were also being used in the various other kinds of movements as well. So Gandhi had some kind of an enduring appeal and impact on the Indian masses and psyche, and we also find that it was not only limited to the Indian psyche and masses, but at the same time we find that in so many countries of the world we find Gandhi's statues and etc. pictures, they have been put at important places. So the world in a way also acknowledges the kind of contribution which has been made by Gandhi in the national movement of India, but at the same time, at the level of belief, we find that the kind of contribution which has been made by Gandhi, so world has some kind of a debt to Gandhi in that particular framework. And we find that the Gandhian movements, they also definitely contributed, where Gandhi could put his beliefs and ideas into some kind of an execution as well. So with this, I'd like to end the discussion. Thank you very much.